All right. What's going on? It's your boy, Keep It Mike. You're listening to 102.9 Tape Deck. And today I got a special guest. I had him back in April when all the uprising was going on back around March 17. I'm glad I was able to have him again. He has a busy schedule, so I gotta get him. I gotta get him before he leaves me and goes to another country to do something else here for our peoples. But Orlando, thank you for coming back.
No, I'm glad to be here. I really enjoy this program.
All right. So we've been communicating back and forth through text and stuff, and you've been sending me videos. So I want to go and back into regards to you being out in Spain. What was the event about, and what was the cause you were trying to bring?
Well, we went to Europe mainly because we believe that the European funding for the regime in Cuba is contributing to the human rights violations on the island. The main
Mhm.
economic pillar of the regime are the European Union and Canada. The European Union is giving that regime no less than 155 million euros per year. This is money that's not audited, it's not supervised, it's going to reinforce regime structures. And I find it very ironic that 28 democracies, the 27 European and Canada, are the ones who are financing this regime. It's a very sick and incoherent policy that the Europeans have implemented towards the regime. So we've been working very hard together with other exile organizations to try and end that funding for the regime. We were invited to speak on Cuba at the Convention of European Conservatives and Reformists in Madrid, Spain. It was a huge international event. There were 10,000 people participating, and top world leaders like the Prime Minister of Italy, the new President of Argentina, and other top leaders from different European countries were in that event. And we had the opportunity to speak on this issue before the assembly. And I think the speech was very well received, which I'm glad. I transmitted the message of the free Cuban nation to Europe to stop supporting, to stop feeding the oppressor of the Cuban nation. And I think in the past year and a half, we've seen a lot of progress. We've seen the European Parliament vote to end this agreement. We've seen the European Parliament this year vote to deny entrance to the parliament to all the members of all the representatives of the dictatorship in Cuba. We've seen the government of Sweden come out in favor of ending the agreement. We've seen the Parliamentary Assembly of NATO also support that, as well as the Council of Europe. So our movement is gaining traction, but it's an uphill fight.
I think I asked this the last time you were here. Um, the world know what's going on with Cuba. For whatever reason, they still want to bring up like the embargo, like this is a distraction. Um, we know that it's not an economical issue with Cuba, it's a political thing, but they're hiding under the facade that is a as economical thing. So what is it with them that they still want to feed the regime, including this country, which I want to get to in a second? What is it with them that they still want to give this country like a lifesaver to make sure they maintain in power?
It's the left wing international movement that wants to feed the regime in Cuba, that says that the issue is not repression but the embargo. We're seeing a real change in mentality in Europe and in other areas with regards to what Cuba is. We're seeing it also in Latin America. Um, they try to pin the whole situation on the U.S., not mentioning that the U.S. embargo doesn't cover food, it doesn't cover medicine, it doesn't cover culture. So the hunger in Cuba, the poverty in Cuba, and what was once one of the most advanced countries in Latin America, is a result of this communist regime. It is the left wing international structure, uh, which in the case of Europe has protected the regime and tried to keep this European subsidy going. The issue in Cuba is human rights, and not everybody knows about Cuba. When I've gone to Europe, even people who are in the democratic forces, they lack information on Cuba. It's always an uphill fight, and we have to inform them, especially about the great support the regime in Cuba is giving the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
One of the things that I saw a couple of months ago in Washington, I believe it was Cuban. They had like an event. They had a Cuban International Day or Cuban Day back in April, but it was I knew some of the figures that was there, but it looked like they were very, I should say, more of a left wing kind of thing that was going on there, and I've seen what was going on there, and I also saw there was a lot of like lobbyists, but again, there were people that were like supporting Puente de Amor organization. So what is it with us that we don't have like a lobbyist that represents us?
Well, we have a very strong congressional and senatorial core. We have
Yeah.
Cuban American senators. We have Cuban American members of Congress of both parties, as well as many other members of Congress and the Senate from both parties who support the Cuban people in their fight for freedom. We have a very strong congressional presence. Thank God that has made a difference over the years. The regime needs to use these so-called groups in order to create the fiction of an opening in Cuba when there is no opening. There's just political prisoners, repression, and the breakdown of the economy to the point that the regime is now starting to turn on the small private sector that supposedly existed in Cuba.
One of the, yes, we do have people in Congress on both sides, but one of the things that gets kind of scary, they actually have like lobbyists. I mean, you have my favorite Jim McGovern like supporting the regime, and he has people on their team supporting them. Outside of the Congress, do we have any lobbyists, or do we need to start? I know like back in the day they had like real hardcore lobbyists that was really like they were hard hitting with them on showing them what it is and make sure that we make sure we keep their foot on their necks to make sure that no money be sent and that they keep that we keep them there to make sure that you know um they don't do anything unless we say so. But now over the years, look as they've been shifted. So they're like the mouse that's trying to get away from the little trap or whatever, trying to find a loophole to make sure their voices get heard. And it gets kind of scary because with everything that's done happened between the bank account situation and Cuba getting out of like the terrorist counter list, quote unquote, people get nervous. So my mother got kind of scared because she's like, okay, what happened if this happens? And then boom, like the embargo gets lifted with no ands, if or buts.
Um, we have organizations which are constantly working in Congress. I think one of the best is the Center for Free Cuba. They're doing very good
Okay.
work.
And
They're
excuse my ignorance because I'm not familiar with that part. I don't know because when I see on TV, I
no,
just
I
see
think it's a
like
very good
the
question. I
yeah.
think it,
So I
I
just
think it's
see
a very
like
good
the
question.
I always see the opposing it, the people that are against us, like having like the bigger voice, and that's what I get nervous because it's like where we at, like where's our voice at to make sure they don't do what they do, and because they move quietly, like como muy calladito, like they do these certain things, then we don't know that 3 days later though they did this. It kind of like when Elon Omar went to Cuba and took that secret trip, and we didn't know till like 4 days later.
I think we
So
have
I apologize for my ignorance.
no, no need to apologize. I think it's something we have to analyze. I think right now it's the members of Congress, it's the Center for Free Cuba, a few other organizations which are doing lobbying, the Cuban Democracy Pact, certainly. But I think our message is there. I think we have a very capable group of members of Congress. I think we need to strengthen our lobbying in DC. You're completely right.
Mhm. Um, Now, Obama did this back in 2016 when he lifted the wet foot, dry foot break on us, and we all know why he did that over something that was petty. There's certain people within the community that they get nervous. Like let's say, for example, um, Biden loses, he'll do something to that level to make sure that we suffer again. So what are the chances, like something weird happens and they move an executive order and try to like lift the embargo? Is that move
The
could
embargo is
happen
a law of
anytime?
land. The embargo is codified. It's a law of the land. It would have to be overturned by Congress.
Mhm.
Um, I would hope that the Biden administration does not take that step in the face of a Russian war fleet docking in Havana just 2 weeks ago. A Russian nuclear submarine going with that fleet. And the news that came out today about the Chinese military bases spying on the U.S. throughout Cuba, with the support this regime has given the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and all these long et ceteras about how this regime has demonstrated over and over again that it's an enemy of the U.S. I would really hope that common sense dictates and the national security of the U.S. that no unilateral measure be taken to accommodate this regime. The only message this regime understands is pressure, is firmness in the defense of democracy and freedom. The thousands of Cubans and the over 1,000 Cubans in the political prisons are a testament to the resistance of that people. And I think the U.S. Policy is best served by keeping the regime in the list of states that sponsor terrorism and by maintaining economic sanctions. No opening until that regime begins the steps toward restoring all rights and freedoms to the Cuban people.
All right, so we can be optimistic and say that he can't. That's not happening anytime soon. Then,
You would need to overturn it in Congress, and right now
yeah,
there's a strong bipartisan coalition in favor of maintaining the
maintaining.
Cuban Liberty Act, which contains the embargo.
Okay, all right. See, my people, we could relax for a second. We could breathe. We could breathe. So, yeah, so that was one of the things that people were kind of panicking on. So I'm glad you were able to give us this information. I've seen you've been making the rounds through the internet. I've seen a lot of the interviews that you've been doing through YouTube and through all the media brand to Cuba. How important is it? Well, not important isn't. Have you been able outside of like Spain and the Cuban community to like spread this awareness outside of the our community?
Well,
Has it
in the big mission that we undertook to Europe, we went to Spain. We did several forums and interviews and meetings in Spain. We were in Rome, where there was a forum in the Senate of the Italian Republic on Cuba that we spoke at. We also spoke with newspapers. We spoke with on online periodicals. We held meetings with different political forces in Italy. We also went to London. We had meetings with the press, meeting with political leaders. So we've been getting the word out, and we're going to continue because we're in a fight to end the subsidy of democracies for the dictatorship in Cuba.
I know I asked this last time you came to the show. How optimistic you feel and how close you feel that we are from getting to our goal of freeing Cuba?
I think it's the closest we've been in a long time, but we got to keep on pushing. It's an unrelenting fight, and we got to push with everything we have.
All right. Well, through this interview, I'm feeling very optimistic and very positive because between the work you've been doing and the people in Florida, and you know what, I'm gonna pat myself in the back because I think I've been doing a decent job in trying to
Of
bring
course,
this
you have.
awareness.
Of course,
So
I'm very proud of our Cubans in Boston. The fight you're putting. I'm proud of you as a young Cuban American journalist. The kind of work you do, the kind of coverage. I'm very very proud of you, and this inspires us to keep on going. So please send me a link of this program because I'd like to share it in all our social media.
not a problem, not a problem. Yes. So yeah, I won't take up too much of your time. It'll be nice if like, we could do something like once a month. You give me like a 10-minute brief, like a
I
little
would
news
love it. I
thing.
would
Oh,
love
that'll
it.
be great. That'll be great, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully sometime. I mean, I got a lot going on in the summertime, but party starting in September. I would love to do something like once a month. You give me like a 10-minute brief of what's going on and just give my people an update what's going on. Well, the people in Boston of what's going on, because
Okay.
people are asking questions now following. So through my platform and everything I have going on, you being in the guests and several other Cuban guests, we're making noise and we're finally getting our voices heard.
All right. I would love it. Thank you, Michael. Big hug to you.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. This is your boy Cuban Mike. Listen 102.9 Tape Deck and stay tuned, y'all. We'll be back.
Hey, and say hi to your
What's good?
mom, all
Listen,
right?
not a problem. Thank you. Thank you. I'm
All
gonna
right,
be
man.
out there in September, so I'll give you a call once I'm out there.
Hey, man. Yeah, you gonna come to Miami?
Yeah, in September.
Yeah, we'll go have lunch or dinner or something. Give me a call.
No problem. Take care, man.
All right, man. Bye.
Later.